Did we check the internet before we...
I did not do an internet check.
Me neither.
I will not be checking.
I don't see us.
There, we should be sending data. Now we're streaming. We're live. Somewhere.
Oh yeah, there we are. Got it.
Hello. See, technology does. We can trust it.
It worked.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live paint-along today.
Live paint.
I have my phone here. What?
Nothing. I just made an unnecessary amount of noise, and I apologize.
Your noise is always welcome.
Oh, thanks. I'll remember that.
Oh no, what did I do? Let us know if you can hear us, if you can see us. It's always a little
questionable.
Oh, Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Marcy.
Amy. Hi, Amy. Hello from Ohio from Lori. Hello, hello.
Hello, Deb. Deb's
Hi,
on
Deb.
YouTube. Deb, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Shh. I noticed that you didn't ask about Sarah, and you know what? That's okay.
Keenan loves that.
I love that.
Christina says hello. She can see and hear us just fine. Allison, welcome, welcome. Marcy said she heard Keenan.
Oh,
Well,
nice. Good.
That's the important part, right?
You know what? I feel heard.
You are.
Thank you.
Heard.
I feel from them.
Jan says hello from California. We're just going to give people a minute to kind of jump on before I start my spiel.
Cindy says all is good and hello.
Oh, good. Hi, Cindy.
Liz also says we can hear you. Katie says hi to Deb, but not to you or I.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Hello, Janice. Hello, hello. Michelle, hi from Indiana. Welcome, Michelle. What?
Katie said, so excited to hear Sarah and Keenan. Can you see us? Now I'm uncomfortable. I'm not sure if the camera's really working.
Amy said she's so excited about France. Me too, Amy. Me too. Lauren said they just moved. Their stuff is everywhere, but she needed to stop and hang out. Well, welcome. Yeah, we're just going to do a little painting hangout. All right, let's get this going.
Okay, go for it.
So, welcome everybody. We are painting our Let's Make Art Matter postcard for our Wanderlust box today. I always mess up that name. I'm Sarah Cray, and I'm going to be teaching the tutorial today, and we have Keenan working the cameras.
Keenan's here.
And this live is special. Well, I like to think all of our lives are special, but there's a few reasons why this live is very special. The first one is that today is the last day for one of our dear employees here at Let's Make Art. Her name is Mary B. She is fabulous.
Fabulous.
She's on the marketing team and specializes in PR and so many things. And it's her last day today, and she's going to be severely missed. And my favorite thing about Mary is the love that she has, not only for the mission, but for the people that she works with. I mean, like, she shows up, she cares. You know, if people are extending themselves, she always says, good job. Like, her heart is just in it all the time. And that's irreplaceable. So, Mary, we are going to miss you, and we are so excited for your next venture and wish you all the best luck.
Good luck, Mary.
Good luck, Mary. And our second announcement of why this is a little bit special of a live is we are going to paint a waterfall today.
Ooh.
And I had never painted a waterfall before in my life.
Ah.
So I'm going to break down for you how I approach painting something that I've never painted before. And just kind of guide you through my process of making the decisions as I'm creating something new. So it's very different. It's not like the step-by-steps that we usually do. This is, you guys get to see inside my brain of the experience of making something when I don't know how to do it. And I'm super nervous, but it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be super fun.
It's going to be just great. And if you guys don't know what our Let's Make Art Matter program is, in our subscription boxes, all of our boxes carry a pre-addressed, pre-stamped watercolor postcard. And we pick someone that we get to send basically an art hug to, where we're just thinking about them. So this postcard this month is going to Dr. Nick. He is in Montana. He recently moved there from Colorado to head up a nonprofit organization, and he doesn't have a lot of family. He doesn't have a lot of friends out there. I mean, it's a brand new place and it's hard work. His work is hard work, and I just wanted to make sure that he didn't feel alone. So we are going to paint something for him to put in the mail and hopefully brighten his day.
Cool.
Great?
Great.
All right, do we have any questions or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Well, let's just get to it. Cool?
Cool.
Now, usually I don't start the oath with like our Let's Make Art Matters or lives, but I want to do it today because I'm a little bit nervous. So we're just going to do it together.
Let's do it.
Okay? And it's for me. I'm just going to say it. It's a reminder to me. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. And it was funny when I told Keenan the plan for the live before we started filming this. He was just like, Sarah, he was just like, what if it turns out horrible?
I didn't say that so aggressively. I said, what if it fails?
And I was just like, well, if it does, it does.
Yes.
And you guys will just witness it. And I will admit that that's a vulnerable place to be, but I'm willing to put myself out there because this is the process of creating. You don't go into it knowing it's going to be a success the whole time, and to pretend that that's what happens, it's just not true. It's not true.
Right.
So we're in this together. I really hope it turns out. I don't know though. Let's
and
find
what
out.
better way to learn?
Yeah. All right.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Okay. All right. So I've seen in our watercolor Facebook group that a few people have asked about Waterfall. So I'm like, great, let's take the time to figure this out. And so the first step that I do when I'm painting something new and like not familiar with it is I'll collect reference photos. It's always a great idea to observe whatever it is that you want to recreate. So I went to Unsplash and I printed out a couple photos that I liked for the waterfall. Can they see those?
No, I haven't changed the camera at all.
Okay, there we go. So just looking at these, I'm paying attention to the overall shape. And I'm paying attention to some composition, I'm paying attention to colors, that kind of thing. So once I look at reference photos, I can take a scratch paper and just kind of start like, you don't have to say sketching, right? Because drawing is like its own thing. But the biggest thing that I want to pay attention to is the overall shape of this, right? So it basically is two parallel lines that kind of start off closer together, that widen out. And then where it hits the water, we see we have a lot of spray. Is that the right word? So it's kind of like an organic shape.
That's the right word.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like organic shape right here, kind of roundish, but this is very geometric, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of play. I have a scratch paper here and I'm just going to kind of like mimic those shapes. So if this is my mountain range, can they see that? I'll draw dark so you guys can see.
Yep, got it.
And I like to like sketch, like scribble. You see how my lines aren't perfect?
I do see that.
Yeah, I want them to be kind of sketchy and loose. I'm not trying to be really perfect here. So it kind of goes down. And then wherever my water is, let's say it's here, as it goes down, it kind of goes, okay? And as you're thinking like, how the heck is this gonna turn into a painting? I'm thinking that too, but it's gonna be okay. Okay, so I feel like I got the overall shape down. Now what's really tricky about this in general is that water is white and we're painting on watercolor paper, which doesn't necessarily have white on it. So, or white paint. So then I need to start playing with some techniques of how I kind of can communicate that water. So I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna grab my 6. I'm just gonna pick up blue, but you can use whatever color you want. And I'm gonna just kind of put some color in, kind of, you see here how there's like gaps that you could see the rock through in different values on this. So let's kind of put those in.
This is fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna think back to my rainstorm tutorial technique where I kind of smeared that color.
Cool.
So I'm gonna take a dry 1-inch brush and just kind of move that down. Try and get that feeling of movement a little bit.
Falling.
Okay, that's not too bad. I feel like I can do it a little bit better. So let's try and make my marks thinner. Like instead of chunks, maybe like thin like this. Thinner and longer. Okay. Now let's see what that does. I think I waited too long. Yeah, that's not moving at all. So let's try it this way. I'm gonna wet the whole thing first, kind of like I did in the rainstorm.
Cool.
Grab some blue. Drop it in. And smear. Okay, that's feeling more like it. See that? You probably can't because it's white. So let's paint around it. But I feel like out of all of them, that has the most feel of movement like we're seeing here in the...
Man, I like all three for different reasons.
Yeah, and there's many ways to approach a painting, okay? I don't want you guys to think that you have to do it this way. Maybe there's someone else that's already figured it out and they're like, you're doing it wrong, and that's okay. All right. So, I feel pretty comfortable with that technique, so I'm just gonna go for it.
Do it.
All right. Now, Keenan, this
ma'am.
is where you're gonna kind of pick the adventure here. Do you like the overall composition and angle of how this kind of angles in with the trees on top? Or do you like kind of this flat with the rocky line? Which one do you want to do?
I really, really like the one on the right with the trees.
Okay, cool. I do too. It's a great composition.
It is.
I will say that I am going to slightly change this up where I think I want my waterfall to be a little bit longer and my bottom of like the edge, I don't want to have to paint all of this. So if we're using this as our reference, I'm probably going to stay more like this up or elongate that. Okay.
I would remove trees.
You're going to, and you can. You absolutely can remove trees, and this is the wonderful thing about creating. Like, let's say you look at this reference photo and you're like, yeah, I like that that goes in like this and it goes down. Like, that's a great composition leading our eye. But you're like, I don't really feel comfortable with trees. Leave the trees out. Do a blue sky.
Yeah.
If you're looking at this and you're like, I really like this, but I do not feel comfortable with water, leave the water out. Do a grassy shore. Just cut it off right there, you know, like allow yourself to make those choices and trust those choices.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of sketch that. And this is a lot smaller. It's our postcard, but I'm going to kind of angle it in.
As Isabel Garcia said, LOL. Oh, Keenan likes this, ... I will change it.
I know, I'm actually listening to you this time, Keenan.
Weird.
Okay, and I'm gonna do this a little bit dark so you guys can see, but just know that I wouldn't normally draw this dark. So it kind of like goes down in, flattens here, and then I'm gonna have that waterfall here. Have the bottom of my water here, and then our trees, if you look at our trees, and this is a little tip, is if you're not sure the angle, just take your pencil, that's a line already, and put it up to the actual things that you're trying to recreate, and you'll be able to see the angle. Because our brain might be saying, trees go straight up. But these trees are not straight up, they're all angled towards the center.
Tricky.
Okay?
Also,
right.
Sarah, what colors are you using?
So, great question. I am using the colors that were in our July subscription box. So we have deep blue, magenta, deep yellow, and black. But just use whatever colors you have on hand, okay? Usually I just am painting with whatever's on my palette. Okay. All right. So this is the rough outline here. I got my ground, I got my waterfall, and I have the bottom of it, and then my trees that I'll start. So with watercolor, you kind of have to think and look at the lightest areas in the picture and leave those spaces empty, essentially. So looking, if this is my reference photo, my waterfall, I'm probably going to do last because it's white. So I'm gonna make the white of the paper do most of the work for me when it comes to this area. The other thing that I'm gonna look at is when it gets closer to this surface and it starts to kind of mist, it creates a lighter value on my rocks. So when I paint my rocky edge wall, I'm gonna make sure that I transition from a dark to a light value to account for this mist here. Because if I paint all of this dark, there's really no way that I can go back and put mist over it. So you have to kind of look at it before you start painting to see how you would approach it. And sometimes you run into problems like mid-painting where you're like, oh shoot, I should have kept that a light value. It's not the end of the world. You just grab another piece of paper and give it another shot, okay?
There's always a second chance with painting.
Always more paper, always more paint. Okay, so I'm gonna put my sky in first, which I'm just gonna keep this deep blue. And I'm gonna put water on it to kind of lighten it up. And I'm gonna use my round 6. I taped off my postcard edge just using the Holbein soft tape. And I'm just gonna put a blue sky in. I will say that what I liked about that other reference photo is how kind of like moody it felt. I felt like it had like a really nice gray sky. Really?
I thought it felt more light and bright.
No, well, I mean, it was definitely brighter, but just like how dark it got with this gray sky and that. Okay, sorry.
Wow. I guess
Jennifer asked if this will be posted later. It will. Once we put something on here, it stays on our YouTube and our Facebook, and you guys can watch it.
We can never remove it.
At any time. Okay, so I put in my sky, and then I'm gonna put in my rocks while reminding myself that when I get to this part where there's gonna be mist, I'm gonna leave it a lighter value. So I'm gonna mix a dark, kind of brownish neutral. So I'm gonna start with blue. Let's get some yellow. Let's get some magenta. Let's see what color that is. Well, that's pretty purple. So let's put in some more yellow to counteract that purple. So now we have like a nice brown, which is good. I also have black here, but I didn't want to use just straight black. I want to like add some color to it. And then I'm going to mix some green. So just blue and yellow right here. There we go. And we are going to just start kind of putting in our rocky edge. I'm going to start, and I'm going to let it, see how it's bleeding in the sky when it touches?
Yes.
I'm okay with that because that's like foliage, right? Like grass.
Yes. Let it blend on its own.
Let it blend.
Let it blend. Let it blend.
And then I'm just gonna blend this color out. I'm gonna take this 6 and move it down. So see how it's nice and light down here? But I feel like I need some more color. I'm gonna do another layer. This one's more brown for sure. The first one was definitely green. And sometimes I like doing washes of different colors. I think it adds to the variation. So this is where I'm going to kind of start paying attention to the shape of my waterfall because I have to leave space for it, right? So it's going to go in a little bit at the top because it's a little bit thinner at the top. And then I feel like we need some like dark rocky edges. So I'm going to mix a darker value. You can see I'm really kind of just grabbing all the colors and putting them together. And if it's leaning too much one color, I'll add its complement or whatever it's across from on the color wheel to turn it down, tone it down. I'm just gonna drop in this color.
This kind of looks like a waterfall without the water going everywhere. Like it's a uniform fall, like when you pour water out of a glass right now.
Yes. So right now that Keenan says that, you can see that our overall composition is starting to take shape. We have a better understanding of where this painting is going than from the first sketch when we were like, how is this going to turn into a painting?
Who drew this?
And I'm going to put more yellow. More brown color. And this is where I really let watercolor shine. It's doing a lot of the work for me by creating different textures, different colors. I'm basically dropping it in areas where it's wet and letting it move. I'm not trying to control it too much. I don't really know where it's gonna go or how it's gonna end up, but on a rocky edge, I feel like I have a little bit of liberty to play.
Oh yeah.
So, and then one thing that I'll do as it dries is I'm gonna do that rough dry brush texture technique that we did in our Italy painting, if you guys have painted that yet, to kind of get an uneven finish, but it's just too wet. It's not quite there yet that it can get there.
Sarah, I need to address a quick focus question.
Okay.
We are focused well, just so everyone on YouTube knows. The camera is focused very well, but there's a slight signal shift in our internet. And so depending on how strong our internet is and how strong your internet is, the image quality will differ because of those things. So it may look, should look better once we're done and it gets a chance to process through YouTube stuff if you aren't loving the quality currently.
Oh, okay, so the quality is a little bit fuzzy right now.
Occasionally. Some people are having quality issues and some people are not.
Okay, well, good to know. Okay, and I'm just putting in some dark here. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to use my Heat It craft tool to dry it off before I do my trees and start on my water, and then we'll just see where the painting takes us from there.
Sweet.
All right. Is this plugged in? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I have no idea.
You want to try and keep it moving.
Keenan, like a dance floor.
Do you want to sing that song that we were singing before we started?
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Please sing.
That's all I know.
That's all you know?
I could sing that part forever.
Okay, if you guys know TLC.
TLC.
Who sings it? Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to.
I don't even know what you just said. And I have a headphone in my ear.
That's okay. You guys don't need to hear me sing. It's a great song, though.
It is
really popular when I was in elementary school.
Elementary school?
Elementary school. Okay.
Oh, dear.
So now that we have that dry.
Deb said, Sarah, I'll sing with you.
Thanks, Deb.
Yes. Call in, Deb. Join the line.
So let's start on our water. And then we'll just see where it goes, okay? So I have my 6. I'm gonna grab some blue. And thinking back to my kind of different techniques that I approached this, my favorite was this guy right here. And this is the one that I did where I wet it first and then dropped in color and then used my brush to smear it. So that's what we're going to do. We're gonna wet it first. And I'm using my 6 because this is a pretty small area. I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue and just kind of do some strokes.
Oh, snap.
Okay, and then I'm gonna take my dry brush and just kind of smear it.
Man, that's cool.
Okay, and so now we're starting to get a little bit of the water feel of movement. Now, at this point in a painting, when I'm trying something new, I start paying attention to the form. Before, we've really just been paying attention to shape. Shape is kind of one-dimensional, and now we want to give it 3-dimensionality. We want it to feel like you can touch it, you know? So this is where I start looking at values. So looking at my reference photo, my darkest values are actually here at the water, and then also kind of underneath the rocky part here, like right around this waterfall are my dark values, and then right here are my dark values.
It's because there's a secret cave back there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So a way that you can identify values if you're not used to it is you squint your eyes and unfocus your eyes, and the values will kind of shift. So if I were to unfocus and squint my eyes, the darkest areas of the picture are gonna pop out to me. So I'm kind of like this here. That's what I'm really seeing in terms of my darkest values. So I want to make sure I put those in because I want the water to feel like it's separate from the rock. So I'm going to take a darker brown, black. I don't want to use just straight black, so I'm basically mixing in green, yellow, and magenta in there too. And then kind of like right around this waterfall, I'm going to start putting that in and then blending it out. And if you look at the waterfall edge, the water isn't perfectly smooth. It kind of like goes in and out a little bit. So it's okay if your line gets a little bit wavy.
Deb said, because I invited her to join us and sing, she said, "You might regret it, Keenan, but at least I know the words." Slight roast.
Totally.
Katie said, "How many of you were around when they asked Alexa to play a song and it played in llama horns around the world?" She meant Holmes, but I like the horns better.
Yeah, that was a Taylor Swift song. I wonder if we could do that.
Alexa, play Waterfalls by TLC. Hey Google, play Waterfalls by TLC.
I'm trying to think if that's the actual name of the song.
No one knows.
We'll find out. You guys let us know.
Some like aggressive rap.
Okay, so now I feel like I have a little bit more dimensionality to my waterfall. It feels like it's starting to poke out just a little bit, and I'm going to do one more layer of dark because I'm just that kind of gal. A little dark. Gotta embrace the darkness. Comes with it. It's how you know when there's light. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Now I'm going to give this a second and I'm going to move on to another area. When I paint on my own, not teaching, I really do jump from section to section a lot because I think it's super important for our eyes and our brain to walk away from a certain section and shift our attention to something else. It's when we get like so focused in on one area over and over that we tend to overwork and start to get frustrated, start to not really enjoy what we're doing and just kind of get upset. So if you notice that within yourself where you're just trying to rework an area over and over again, why don't you take a second and move to a whole other section and let your brain and your eyes rest. That's the best advice I can give you when you're feeling a bit irritated about a section of a painting. Okay, so I'm gonna mix brown.
Good advice.
So I'm gonna take magenta and I'm gonna get some more yellow, which is gonna create orange. And then we're gonna add a little bit of black in there because orange is essentially dark brown. So we're just making a dark brown. I'm gonna add some green to tone down the redness because I want like a tree trunk color.
We successfully got the song to play.
Did we?
Multiple locations across the world.
Okay, so I'm gonna take my 2, which is my thin brush, and I'm just gonna start putting in my trunks. So, boop. And it's up to you if they go, I'm gonna have the ones along the edge go off, like up past the painting, past the paper. And I wanna call attention, I space these out evenly. Don't do that. Don't do that, brain. Come on, let's throw another one in there. There we go.
Laura says, "I know nothing about this overworking thing you speak of." Grimace face palm to face emoji.
I I know, it gets you, doesn't it? Even yesterday I was working on a painting and there was one part that I just totally overworked. I just wouldn't let it go. That's okay, it's part of it. All right, I got my trunks. Now let's do, I'm gonna mix some fresh green.
Deb's throwing shade at me.
You deserve it.
Wow.
Okay, so I have my green that I just mixed with blue and yellow. And I'm just gonna start, I'm not gonna focus too much on creating exactly this. There is a lot of foliage right here. For me, when I look at this, it seems very overwhelming. And so I'm just gonna simplify it. I'm just gonna do the tree silhouettes that I feel comfortable doing. If it's easier for you to go off this reference photo, feel free to. And I'm just going to kind of do my marks. Remember, these trees are kind of triangle shaped. So they start small marks at the top, and then as you work your way down, they get a little bit thicker, they overlap more. And of course, we're gonna overlap with different trees, right? There's different distances between these trees and they're layered upon each other. So they don't need to stay within their section. We don't want that. And then I like to drop in a dark value after I put in a light value. And then this tree that's really small is farther away, so I'm gonna try and make my marks a little bit finer, a little bit lighter in value. Okay. The ones on the right-hand side, those are gonna be a little bit bigger. They're closest to us, right? And sometimes when I'm doing trees, if I'm feeling, I've noticed that like, when I'm feeling a little bit lazy, my trees actually turn out great.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm just like, whatever, tree. And it's when I try and make my trees like very tight and detailed, and I try really, really hard. It's the same with clouds. Clouds and trees, man, you just gotta like go for it and just kind of see what happens. And then sometimes what I like to do when it's wet, I'll take a dry brush. I'm just gonna use this 12, is I'm just gonna go along the edge and kind of just smear. Get some different textures in there.
That's how my golf game works.
Yeah.
And I just need to relax.
Yeah.
Don't focus on it so hard.
Yeah. It's funny how that kind of happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I got more green. I'm gonna do more things over here. Now, if they're overlapping so much to a point where you're losing a little bit of the overall shape, which I think is what's happening right here on this third tree. See how it lost a little bit of its shape?
I do.
I'm just going to see if I can pick any color up. Yep. And then I'm gonna go back in there after it dries and put in darker, tighter values, which will then keep its shape a little bit more. But it's gotta dry first, so I'm gonna move to the other side. Now, I wanna call attention to, if you're not used to painting, that area, what I just did, probably could have felt like a mistake, where you're just like, man, I messed that up. But these kinds of things happen to me as I'm painting anything, projects for Let's Make Art, original artworks that I sell, like license work. Those kinds of things happen all of the time. It's part of the process. It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's more like there are gonna be accidents and things that you can't totally account for. And when that happens, you just gotta figure out how to problem solve through it, and then you're through it, okay?
Okay.
So when maybe something doesn't go to plan, you just kind of like be like, okay, well, what can I do about that? Can I do something about that? Well, then let's just move on, and it's not a big deal.
Speaking of not a big deal, would you be able to tell us the colors you're using again?
Sure. I'm using the colors from our December Wanderlust box. Wanderlust. I said it right, right?
You did.
They are deep blue, deep yellow, magenta, and black.
Did you say December Wanderlust?
No, July. Did I?
I think you said December.
Wow.
So.
That's embarrassing.
It's very interesting because I immediately thought I was wrong. I was like, nope, not July, it's December.
You guys weigh in, what did I say?
Let's Make Art says, not December box.
Gosh dang it.
That's funny.
What was I thinking?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's funny.
Okay, I'm gonna do my little different textures along the side. Oh gosh, you guys, I'm sorry I did that. Okay, that feels a little bit better.
Christmas in July.
Christmas in July. Thanks, Rita. I'm going to switch to my 6 for this big guy on the edge here.
Cindy said, had to look out to see if it's snowing.
Hilarious.
Too many good roasts today.
Listen, you guys. I'm just really into this painting. That's what's happening here.
I see what's happening, yeah.
And then sometimes what I'll do, especially if there's like layers and layers of foliage, is instead of making the trees perfectly clean between them, I'll kind of take a dry brush and kind of just smear color around a little bit to kind of give a hint that there's more behind. It's not just like 4 trees. It's just like there's trees, but there's layers and layers that we just can't see them, but they're kind of back there. So I'll just kind of like smush things around. Just a hint. It doesn't have to be crazy. Okay. So we're gonna leave the trees for a second. We've focused on our trees. Now I need to leave that section alone before I do anything else to it. I'm gonna move down to my water. I have a little edge here for my water. And if I'm looking at reference photos, and you don't have to use just one reference photo. Like here, I can't really see how what the water looks like because this sidewalk kind of covers it. This one I can see the water, and if I'm looking at this, I have a pretty clean straight edge that's really dark along the sides and has a lighter value in the middle, which is where that light is hitting it. If you have other reference photos or multiples, you can see what those areas look like and pick and choose what you want to use. You don't have to, if like this is your main reference photo, you don't have to just use every section of it. You can take a section from another picture that you like better and use that there instead.
Nice.
So I'm going to, Emily said, did you guys see the bad Yelp reviews for national parks? Have you ever seen that?
No.
There's actually someone who makes posters from the bad reviews of national parks and sells them, and they are hilarious. Like the Grand Canyon, someone wrote like, it's just a big hole. Or
Oh my
like
gosh.
And they're so funny. So funny, but like, yeah, what people say, they're like, no cell phone service at all. Or,
oh no.
It's just hilarious. Okay, so I'm gonna take my deep blue, mix a little bit with black to get a dark blue. And right here, I'm just gonna put that in along the edges. Rinse my brush, and then using just water, I'm gonna kind of spread that out so it's nice, so it's a lighter value in the middle, like on my reference. And then I'm gonna take some of this and just do a little bit of like kind of dots a little bit, like that spray. So some of it is white, but I want to give a little bit of form to it, so I'm going to do some kind of blue areas.
I have some bad Yelp review examples.
Okay.
And this is actually from an illustrator that creates the art.
Okay.
I think her name is Amber Scher.
Oh, I got the company I was talking about. Subpar Parks.
Subpar Parks?
Yes.
They do it?
I follow her on Instagram. It's hilarious.
This person also does it, and the one, Sequoia National Park, it says, there are bugs, and they will bite you on your face. Yosemite National Park, trees block view, and there are too many gray rocks.
The trees. It's a tree park.
Grand Canyon. A hole. A very, very large hole.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I put in the bottom part of my water, which I feel pretty good about, but I'm noticing my values are shifting in this painting. When I first put in my water here, I felt like it kind of showed up. Now, considering how dark everything else in this painting, this just seems like a white chunk. So I'm gonna do another layer using that smear technique to bring in some darker values so it matches what's around it and it doesn't just feel like an empty white spot. So I'm just gonna wet it with water. And I'm gonna be a little bit more bold in my color choice, take that same kind of navy color. Drop that in, do long, and then I'm gonna take a dry brush, smear. And let's do another layer of it while we can. I'm gonna switch to my 2.
Looking sweet.
Smear. All right, that feels pretty good.
That's awesome.
Now I'm gonna look at my rocks. Can I just pause and I wanna pat myself on the back where I'm like, this is starting to look like a waterfall, we got this. Okay, so I'm going to grab my 6. I'm gonna grab a dark color, whatever one you have on your palette. At this point, if you're like me, you have multiple muddy piles. Just grab one. And we're gonna do our dry brush technique.
Oh, snap.
And I'm gonna do a little bit of this in a slightly lighter value over kind of like the misty area too. And you don't even have to do, I've been doing like straight horizontal, yep. Or you can kind of like jag it. So you kind of like have it go back and forth.
Cool. Similar to shrubbery.
Yeah.
So Solvig said virtual paths for Sarah.
Thank you.
Also, she mentioned that, I need to find it because she had in Norway we call Christmas Jule, which is practically July, so not so far off.
Oh.
So, nailed it.
Nailed it.
Multilingual Sarah Cray.
Okay. Just doing a few more textured marks here and there. Kind of tightening in on where the mist goes, where the rocks end. And if I'm looking at this, I feel pretty convinced of the misty side on this left-hand side. I think this right side still feels maybe a bit too light in value. So I'm just gonna shape it a little bit. So if you look at the shape of my mist, it's kind of like a half circle. So I have a half circle going here, and this one I need to kind of shape a bit more.
I would not have seen that.
There we go, that feels a little bit better.
You're welcome for the close-up. Hi, Lori.
And then maybe we'll do some dark.
Lori says hi, Sarah.
Hi, Lori. Hi, how are you? Okay. Dang, look at that waterfall. That's looking good. All right. I feel like I need to make my blue edges a little bit darker. So let's do one more quick little layer. And maybe like, I don't know, I'm feeling a little edgy.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about just like grabbing some of this blue, kind of smearing it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's grab a dry brush and just kind of smear it. Let's just see what this does. There's a little bit of green on that brush, but that's all right.
There's got to be green on those rocks.
Yeah.
What's crazy about waterfalls? You know what? I won't even say it. Never mind.
Okay.
I'll sound a little crazy.
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 And then one other thing that I just kind of noticed, if I look at the edges of the waterfall, I have my edge is pretty strong, right? Like it's a very clean line where there's actually a value shift between the rocky edge where there's mist and where there's the majority of the water. Do you see that? So it should be a softer edge, even on this side. See how that kind of blends a little bit?
Yeah.
A little fuzzy. So that's not a big deal. I'm just gonna take a wet number 2 and blend this area. Kind of let this rocky color bleed into the water a little bit. It doesn't have to be a ton, but just enough to show like it's a soft edge here because it's a thinner amount of water, so you could see the rock a little bit more.
Cool. Marcy told me to stop because every time I say shrubbery, she has a flashback to Monty Python. Shrubbery.
Shrubbery.
Janice is just watching for fun and relaxation.
Yay.
Yay.
Welcome, Janice.
Probably need some fruit snacks. I've been eating a lot of fruit snacks lately.
I'm not a huge fan of fruit snacks.
Really?
Really, they're not my thing.
That's okay.
I'm just not a huge gummy person in general.
I like fruit-flavored candies. Don't like fruit.
Okay, now I'm gonna go in. I'm feeling really good about this waterfall. But I need to go in and address my trees a little bit. So they're dry now. If they're not dry yet, you can use a heat tool and dry them. And I'm gonna mix a darker green because I want this to kind of show up on my green that I already have. Okay, and I'm just gonna start painting on top of the green that I've already put down to kind of like put in branches, the trunk, kind of shape it a little bit more because it kind of got a little blobby. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Just like, yeah, there's a tree here. This is where it's really easy to lose the angle of your tree because you've already like painted over your trunk. So I'm just like kind of going on a prayer that it doesn't look too wonky. But just remember, I mean, wonky trees totally exist in nature. They're a thing. Okay, that feels a little bit better. I'm gonna actually create another tree over here in the same dark value so this one doesn't feel like the only one. And it's just gonna go off my paper. It's just a little hint of that tree that you're seeing. And I'm gonna do a little bit more of that dark value on this side.
The waterfall's alive.
Yeah?
Yep.
I'm so glad. / relieved. But it's interesting, like this kind of push and pull, right? Because I want you guys to be successful. I want to give you good information so then you can take that and learn from it. But I also think it's a disservice to pretend like we might not have great outcomes all the time. And just because you see a finished product or a finished project, you don't know the practice or the little accidents or the things that went into it to create this finished piece. And so even though like starting this, we're being like, I really don't know how this is gonna turn out. I've never tried this before. You guys need to know that that is part of the process, and accepting that something at the end of it might turn out bad makes it so much easier to be brave and create something and try it. You can be surprised what you can do when you let go of these kind of like really ridiculous expectations that we put on ourselves. And I'm glad that you guys gave me that kind of grace to just be like, we're gonna try this. Let's see how it goes. And you guys didn't yell at me.
Sometimes it does take a group effort.
Yeah.
To feel good about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's feeling good. That feels good. You guys might not have this if you only have the July subscription box. This was not included in it, but it's a great way just to do some finishing details. And I'm just gonna go for it. So I have my bleed proof white here. And so what I'm going to do, and we're just gonna see, like, maybe it won't show up that much, but like, what if we did some white kind of like spray dots
Cool.
out here? And I kind of want to smear them a little bit. I don't like how perfect they are. What?
Marcy said, I got a little lobby over the pandemic. I'm glad to hear that all this exercise I've been trying is unnecessary and that all I really need to do is add a little bit of dark green paint to myself.
Me too. Just go ahead and lather.
That's the secret. I knew it.
That's it. All right. And if you want to do, I mean, we're using the bleed proof white anyway. I'm just going to do a couple highlights in this actual water that's coming down. The same kind of movement where it's kind of like long, thin strokes.
This is cool. Lynn was replying to Janice Cordano, which I'm not sure where that comment is. I'll find it. But she said, I love Sarah's attitude. I always had art teachers in school who expected our work to look just like theirs and anything less was wrong. So I told myself that I was bad at art and only now am being brave enough to try again for fun.
Absolutely. And I think it's because sometimes as art teachers, I think they feel like their job is to make sure they get results. And there's one way to do it, and that's how they know they're being a good art teacher. But I feel like for myself, the way that I learn and how I like to encourage people to learn is that there is not one singular way. And I am also not the best or most knowledgeable or anything. We have an opportunity to learn from each other. And the magical thing about creating art is we're allowed to have a voice in it. We're allowed to make our own decisions and go off script or do whatever we want, because that is the joy of the creative process. That is where that magic happens. It's not necessarily doing photorealistic paintings or copies of what you're trying to learn or being able to get every line right that your teacher told you to. I mean, that feels good. It feels good when we can do that. But I think what keeps us creating is the joy that we have when we know that we've created something with our own hands and that we're allowed to put our own spin on it or try something new and just continue to learn and grow. So I'm so glad that you are being brave and trying this and finding joy in creating, because that's really what it's all about. It's that joy. Okay. I feel pretty good about this.
Yeah, that's amazing. From that blank piece of paper with the scribbles to this.
To this, I know. Do you remember when I did this?
Yes, I do.
And I was like, how is this going to be a pain?
This is when I had flashbacks of what I said earlier.
You're like, Sarah, oh no. All right, I'm going to carefully untape it. I'm using my Holbein soft tape, which is my favorite tape. And still, even with this tape, if you're not careful, right when you start to peel it, is the only time I've experienced any kind of tearing. So that's why when I first start to peel, I'm like very careful. But usually once you get it going, it's good. I love these clean edges.
I have one question on here.
Okay.
Should you use a separate brush for bleed proof white?
I use my watercolor brushes for bleed proof white. I just make sure I rinse them really good. Bleed proof white is essentially like a really thick gouache, so it still has a water base, so it won't damage your brushes, but I would clean it really well. If you use acrylic, like if you guys have white acrylic paint, that would essentially do the same thing. I would use a different brush if you ever use acrylic. Or just clean it really good after.
Let's Make Art says, Keenan, never doubt Sarah again.
Hear, hear.
Deb says, woohoo, Sarah, you did it.
Okay, you guys, should I look at that? That looks pretty good.
That looks great.
All right. I really hope that you guys take the time to create this. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come hang out with us and paint us. Even if you're not painting with us, just having a good time with you guys is really what it's all about. If you are not at a spot where you can paint it, come back to this later, try it, and send Dr. Nick a postcard. He's in Montana, and it actually works out perfect. I was just in Montana like a month ago.
So if it had been sooner, it would have worked out perfect.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying is was a waterfall there that I saw.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I actually was seriously sitting at the waterfall thinking, how would I paint this? And then I'm like, I don't know. And then I moved on. And here we are. So anyways, take the time to create something for someone else. It's not about it being perfect. It's not about creating this frame-worthy art piece. It's about letting someone know that you care enough about them that you took the time to make something with your hands. And you care enough about someone to put something in the mail to them. I mean, who does that now, right? Like, it's special. And when you get something in the mail, especially when it's hand painted, it doesn't matter what it looks like. You're just so grateful that someone took the time out for you. And that's what we're trying to do with Let's Make Art Matter, is let people know that they're not alone. And I think together we can make a world a kinder place. If you're afraid of putting your beautiful painting in the mail for it to get damaged, we sell a sealer called Dorland's Wax. You would just let this guy dry for a little bit and then take some wax and rub it on, and that would keep it totally water resistant. I've literally thrown water on paintings after, and it doesn't do a thing. It's great.
Out of anger. She was really mad one day and just, you know what, painting? Just bounced right off.
So thank you for letting me try this format where I just kind of spoke out loud of my choices for an hour to see where it went. And thank you for being you. Thank you for being with us. And if you have anyone that you would like to nominate for our Let's Make Art Matter, you can just go to letsmakeart.com, scroll down to the bottom, and I'm pretty sure we have a nominate button. So, Keenan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for the invite.
All of you guys, thank you for being here. And we'll see you guys next time.